Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the most collaborative video that I have ever done here on Oxygen Not Included, and this is in a direct response to the challenge I released about a week ago, which was the Hydrogen Bubbler Design Challenge, which was posted here on Reddit and at the end of one of my previous videos. So you guys have delivered and giving me about 9 different systems that I'll be working through here, just to kind of explore some of the different options and things that people have come up with, you know, as far as different hydrogen bubbler systems. And there are 2 primary categories that people seemed to have settled on, and that's one of those is going to be kind of a gas system that's working off of thermal regulators, and the other one's going to be working off of the aqua tuner, so it's starting with liquid oxygen and using that as a medium to cool down more polluted oxygen. Now, as per the name of this thing, the community kind of knows it as a hydrogen bubbler system. However, in the current version of the game, it's more about a oxygen purification system, so we can really just call it that. There's other more technical terms for it, but for the sake of it, I think I'm going to start calling these oxygen purification systems, because it's going to take polluted oxygen and clean it, and it can also get rid of germs that are running through it. So there's multiple functions that it's now filling. So that's what I think I'm going to settle on, but we can still call it a hydrogen bubbler because that's what people understand it as. A couple of the other things that have happened here is I've modified this, so this is all ready to go. And you can see over here on the right, which was the previous system that I was working on here, relatively simple, not very big compared to some of the systems we're going to see today. As far as this challenge went, there's really only one rule, and that was try to keep the system under 3 kilowatts of power. That way I can pump it up with this little power unit over here, and I don't have to worry about, you know, making a new one each time. That simplified it, and more or less that was more or less it. A lot of it was trying to figure out exactly how this is going to work and how the function worked. And paste bin, it worked well. However, I guess it does have its limits. The imager thing also worked as well. Some people used GitHub, so I feel like, you know, the method of getting the stuff to me worked out just fine. Anyhow, enough of that. Let's see what Lee Song has for us. It says, here is my low power radiator design. Nothing fancy, it's just a classic radiator design with pre-cooling and avoiding the pump for hydrogen. So a couple of things that are going to improve its efficiency here. So we can see here, this is kind of the system as he has it, with some power input down there. And let me see if I have it ready to paste in. Let's see how this looks. Here we go. And boom! Hey, that worked pretty good. Now, I'm not going to run like a benchmark test on all of these. I mean, some of them are going to be easier to measure than others, and some people have already given me their results, but let's see what happens here. Okay, so the numbers that Lee Song is coming up with is 148 kilograms of oxygen, and then at the cost of 230 kilojoules, which is actually quite low. The thing is, the one problem we're going to have here is that these hydro switches and all of that stuff get reset every time you go to paste it out of here, so not everything's perfect. Alright, so let's start the system from the very beginning here, and right off the bat we can see that this gas valve, he's doing something really interesting. Now, I've heard somebody explain this to me, but I didn't really experiment with it to see how it works, but you can see exactly what's going on here. So only using one pump, obviously coming out of that pump, you're only going to get, let's say, 500 grams of gas, so it's less, because that's as much as a gas pump can put out. But look at what he's doing here with these little gas valves. It's running through a bit of a loop, so that loop contains more gas, which then runs back up and kind of recombines to go back through. So it's actually compacting the gas. So you can see up here, by the time it gets out of this loop, obviously it's at less of a rate. However, the blocks are of higher density that's moving through those. So that means what you're moving through those thermoregulators, you're getting more efficient usage out of them because they use the same amount of power. It's just how much gas you put into them. So that works really good right there. And you can also, looks like he also has another valve over here to turn things down if he needs to. But I never saw that loop until now. I've only heard it explained. So that is something to really keep in mind. So we can see where the cooling is happening. It's happening over here. And this is where we're going to get our liquid oxygen, right? So that's going to come out. And then at some point that liquid oxygen is going to go up here. So that's where the pre-cooling is happening. So this will get nice and cold, and that cold will then cascade down through the system. And you can actually take a wolframite up here if you wanted to potentially increase the efficiency of that as far as how much energy is going to transfer out. You can also see that it's happening over here as well, so that liquid oxygen, if it's still liquid oxygen by the time it gets over here, can then pump out, and you can see just how much gas you're getting here because of these. He's using the little liquid trick on the vent. So that makes sense. That's where what he's using to measure this system. What's kind of interesting here is the method he's using to keep the thermoregulators cool. So we can see that as the liquid oxygen comes over here, it's then going to drip down, and it'll kind of keep this cool as well. But he's using that dripping effect of the water to keep the thermoregulators cold. Not to mention that these things are not continuously running because they're processing 1 kilogram worth of oxygen or hydrogen every once in a while. So there's several things that are going on in this system that makes it quite efficient. So I like that. All right, so thank you for sharing, Lee. I do like that system, and I like those couple little things there that I'll definitely use in future builds, especially that loop, you know? So here's another system from Silicon, and you can see how this system is going to look. It's using, in this case, Weezewarts to keep those thermoregulators cool, which is, again, a different method that we saw there. It's definitely a more efficient method if you have the Weezewarts, but let's go ahead and paste this in and see how it all functions, huh? Occupying about the same size as what we had before. Let's see what happens if I put the tiles. Aha! Got rid of them. Yep, and it looks like it went weird too. Oh no! Voltron, I need your help. Good job, Voltron. Some people ask how I do this. It's Alt plus Q. I usually pause it before I go ahead and move them, and that seems to work a little bit better. Sometimes moving things around, they tend to teleport back to where they started. Bam! There we go. Oh no, this one didn't work out as well. Things are kind of missing here. So many of these systems rely on like having the flow controls set correctly. It's going to be kind of difficult to get most of these to work. Oh, this is going to blow up. Ah! The system is self-destructing. Well, let's see how it works as far as this description goes here. So this is blah, 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 blah. Okay, come on. Ah, I just got a haircut and I feel like I should try to get as much as possible in my eyes. Ah! All right. The system uses vent/water bug to overpressurize the 2 cooling towers with hydrogen. Okay, so there should be a little bit of liquid down here with lots and lots of hydrogen. Look at that. Humongo amount. The towers then cool the outer stuff around them. The polluted oxygen is instantly turned into liquid after leaving the vent. Yeah, so you can like really just build up the huge amount of thermal capacity inside of there. I see what you're doing. As for the power, it's saying here 128 kilograms of oxygen with about the average use of around 240 watts. So the one big notable thing here is the fact that, you know, using this sort of method, if you're okay with using it, as far as you can compress a lot of hydrogen into these cells right here, that also means you're going to get a lot out of the pumps. And, you know, just being able to have that huge capacity there is really going to allow you to convert polluted oxygen about as fast as you can get it in there, so long as you have enough energy to force the temperature down of all that mass. So, yeah, I mean, this thing, I believe it that it could really put out a lot of liquid oxygen. Let's take a look at Science Officer Frost's hydrogen bubbler system here. Look at this craziness. So this system is really nice and symmetrical, as you can see. So extra points for that. And look at all these mechanized airlocks here, mechanized airlocks. There's a whole bunch of them. And it looks like this entire thing can run off of less than 1,000 watts. How about that? Maybe. Maybe not. There might be some switches that are set up that are just no longer functioning. All right, so for this system right here, you can see exactly what's going on. It works about as you would expect. So you have the 2 gas pumps right here, which are running and then going through a gas bridge to combine it together so that you get 1 kilogram of hydrogen. And then that runs through 2 thermoregulators up here, which are kept cool by a couple of Weezewarts. And you can see how that functions up there. And temperature-wise, that should work. And there is also some gas pipes up here as well. And those are made of granite as well. So this is potentially trying to keep this area cool. A little bit extra cool, I should say. Because I think I heard it from one of you guys that having just 2 of these Weezewarts no longer keeps the thermoregulator cool enough. But I guess it all depends on how much you run it. And then that probably should be above. So there we go. At any rate, all of that here runs to cool this humongous mass of wolframite. So there's lots and lots of wolframite up here, and that allows for a lot of area to come in contact with this polluted oxygen. And you can see just how quickly it is liquefying all of that oxygen. So that oxygen then drips down here into this bottom reservoir, which is nice in the middle and symmetrical, which then pumps out to the right. So there isn't any sort of pre-cooling effect as far as with this liquid oxygen. However, it has a very nice symmetrical layout. And we'll see a couple other systems that are similar in style to this, but you know, have taken their cues from that symmetry design. As far as it being quite efficient, well, it didn't cause any damage with just a 1000 watt wire, so that's pretty cool. Nice system there, Science Officer Frost. Alright, so we also included this spreadsheet of calculations and how well a system is working here. However, as I've experienced many times in my own, it's kind of hard to understand exactly what is where and what's going on. What's your important numbers? So statistics, right? No, total O2 in grams per cycle. So 275 kilograms. What about power? Power consumption at 771 kilowatts per cycle. So that gives you some sort of idea there. Our last recommendation for a more gas-based system comes from Captain James Midnight. Here he says a couple of his ideas, and he had his own sort of GitHub here, which includes a Reddit and all of this stuff. So read me first, and that gives you some sort of idea of exactly what's going on here. Alright, so this guy made his own little saved game here, and you can see his different revision on the power base. So he has a couple of coal generators down here, and a little bit different approach to the whole power base system. I didn't really mention anything about that, but I'm kind of curious to see what different solutions people came up with. And, you know, people did come up with some different things. Right off the bat here, you can see, again, just how symmetrical these last two bases were, and this one as well. This is a very clean setup, and it's modular as well. That's a couple of the things I really like about it. Plus the fact that you have a mechanized door that you could possibly get into at some point. So this here is probably a very practical and functional design that you could actually use in your base. You know, and it looks like it's set up and ready to go. So that's one of the things that stood out to me. Now this thermal switch here should be above -200 probably. We can see as far as his cooling system, just has lots and lots of wheeze-warts. So compared to all the different methods that we've seen as far as the methods to cool the thermoregulator, the most efficient or the most, I don't know, creative that I've seen so far as the gas system goes. We've seen the wheeze-wart approach a couple of times. We've also seen the wheeze-wart plus a radiator system. But the one that was pumping that liquid to drip down on top of it, plus having these guys running around inside of there, potentially might have been the most efficient method to kind of cool that. I'm not sure. There's different approaches to it. Ultimately, you can see how this system's running right here. It's very clear-cut, very understandable. Obviously, you have your cycle as far as how much hydrogen you're moving around right here. So far, only one person's done the actual loop that's going back and forth and using just one gas pump. This system over here, again, has a very, very large mass of wolframite, so that any of the polluted oxygen that's coming down from all of these morbs up here that are running around, you know, by the time it gets down to the bottom, is becoming liquid oxygen. So you can see exactly just how much you're getting down here, and it's significant as far as how much is being processed per day. So let me go ahead and just run this through its next cycle, and we'll see just how much we get in a single cycle, I guess. Alright, so in one day right there, that was 403 kilograms. And the amount of power that was used was 847 kilojoules right there. So roughly about 2 to 1 running right there, which is about what we would expect to see from a system that's running like this. That's more or less using thermoregulators and pumps, and really not using any sort of pre-cooling or stuff like that. That's about as efficient as you're going to get. So as far as my favorite gas systems, I think Lilsong had the most unique ideas as far as pre-cooling and keeping the thermoregulators cool, and also using that loop to also keep the gas pump efficient. So there were some interesting, the most unique method of using the blocks that we have, I think, comes from Lil Song. As far as actually being able to set one of these things up and then use it inside of a base, you can see here that I like this system as far as how symmetrical and well set up it is. I could see something like this, potentially smaller, right? Maybe just one of these cells being used in a system like this with its pre-cooling methods and its thermoregulator to kind of keep it cool to really make one fully optimized system right there. So thank you guys for all of your different recommendations and all of the stuff that you guys have as far as these gas systems. Now let's go ahead and take a look at, using the thermal or the aqua liquid, and let's go ahead and take a look at the thermal aqua tuner builds and see what we have as far as those things go. There's a few more recommendations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in total. So let's get started. All right, so for our first liquid system here, it comes from Rocking Orc. You can see what he's doing here as far as using the aqua tuner down there. So that'll be pumping liquid oxygen around through several pumps and through a more classical radiator design with the liquid pipes, which can be made of wolframite, by the way. So that is a very effective way to kind of build a radiator system right there. These systems are a little bit more tricky because that aqua tuner is going to give off tons and tons of heat. Not to mention that, and you also got to get a heavy watt wire to them. So let's see what they have there. Boom! Here we go. All right. Oh man, what is going on? This is madness. Rocking Orc, this is nuts. Okay, so as far as the gas is going, this thing is you can see the simple of just like pumping it right down. No problem. Just going right down here, and then by the time we're getting to the bottom, all of that liquid is finding its way up and over there. And just dumping out the bottom. Alright. For some odd reason, this isn't getting cycled through over here. It's not your system's fault. Somehow it just did not paste in very good. But as far as laying out the basics for how one of these liquid or thermal aqua tuners, I'm going to keep calling that thing a liquid aqua tuner. Don't give me a hard time on that. Essentially this is exactly what it is, right? We have liquid oxygen. At some point we've produced it, maybe with one of the previous gas systems, and it falls into a reservoir. We can then use this piece of equipment down here, which is going to cool down liquid, which obviously it contains a lot more thermal capacity because it's in a liquid state. And then you can pump that around, and you can also make use of this wolframite material. So you can see this, as far as the radiator design is much, much more efficient because we're doing that. Not to mention it contains, again, like I said, more energy. So potentially you can really get higher throughputs for a system like this in much less space. So that is the real advantage of a liquid system. However, you have to prime it with liquid oxygen first, and that's the real trick. So this is kind of the basics, right? You have a loop that's going to cool it, and then another loop that's for your radiator, and then obviously you got to pump in your gas somehow. I'm not even sure that these, airlocks are needed. This thing could probably just do without this. Can we just roll without that? Let's see what the temperatures look like. Obviously it's a little bit... Man! The system's lagging like crazy today. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, this is getting real bad. Yeah, see? I mean, that pump isn't even needed. These guys are just happy up here. Alright, well, there we have it. That is our very first look here at an aqua tuner setup, or a liquid setup. So, thank you for that, Rocking Orc. And let's move on to the next one. This is a surprisingly difficult episode to film for some odd reason. There's a lot of moving parts in this thing. Alright, let me go back to the other one. Okay, so our next recommendation here comes from 4S99. And you can see this one is a much different design. All of this surrounding, I guess the polluted oxygen is going to come in right here. And then we're just going to bombard it with mechanized airlocks made of probably wolframite all around it. This is madness. Alright, let's take a look at it. Holy moly, look at this paste. Ugh, that's a lot of equipment. Voltron, you gotta do another job. Right over here. Good job, Voltron. Alright, go back to your base. By the way, this little power base will be available for download at some point, once I get around to it. It does work. It's been here for well over 100 cycles. Everybody's happy. Voltron enjoys his job. Okay, so this system here, look at all these infeeds, as far as oxygen goes. Okay, so for this system right here, taking a look at this, we have the infeeds as far as the gas goes, several gas pumps here, and it looks like it's working on an over-pressurizing system, right? So it's just going to pressurize it, and as it condenses down, it'll then turn into liquid. So how does the liquid system work? Aha, there's the secret. All right, so the liquid that's pumping out of here is then going obviously through our aqua tuner right there, and then is coming right back up to drip into several different locations. And at that point, it's cooling down all of this mass as it's moving through it. Now, I don't know if it's just a problem with the design, but probably more or less a problem with how this stuff translates once I paste it into my building. And that means, whatever, tungsten, let's go ahead and do that. Extra thermal capacity there. Should be able to drip some of this stuff out. So if we take a look at this aqua tuner, what is this made out of that it's staying cool? Well, it's made out of gold amalgam, so it just has a very high temperature that it can get to. And just getting bombarded with the Weezeworts right there. And if any of that liquid oxygen comes out of the system, this is where it's going to drip down. However, something happened here and I lost all of my liquid oxygen. Oh no! Alright, well I can't quite get this working in the time that I have. But if we could see here, as far as 1,500 kilograms of oxygen per cycle, that is a humongous amount. However, the minimum power usage that you can get is right around 1,650 watts, which is actually very efficient when you start to think about how many watts per kilogram. You know, those are much closer to 1-to-1 right there. So it's very, you know, if that is the numbers that he's getting right there, then that is a highly efficient system. However, it's also a very big system, so you got to have a lot of duplicants that you're trying to support with this method right there, or you have to have a lot of oxygen that you need to purify. I mean, that's massive. But then again, in my super duper duplicant base, I use humongous amounts of oxygen because I have 50 duplicants. So a system like this is definitely possibly in my future there. So thanks for that, 4S. Let's move on to the next one here, the Chaotix 14. All right, so you can see the image for the Chaotix, and here it is again. We get a lot of these systems that are kind of built in that vertical sort of rectangle design, and it's focused very much on symmetrical design. I mean, look at this. It's pretty cool. I think people really like to make things symmetrical. But this is gonna be huge. All right, let's post it in. Deconstruct everything. Oh, okay. I bet you I know why my game's starting to lag so much. Look at all the morbs in this base. Look at them. Oh no. Should I get out lava or should I just send Voltron? I'm gonna stick Voltron on him. Here you go. And your job is to kill everything, Voltron. Go for it. Bam! He's got a lot of work to do. It's gonna take a while. Voltron is a beast. But there's just a lot of Zerg down there. Okay, in the meantime, let me find something to get rid of these guys. Aw, now he's just sad. And cold. Aw. Well, that didn't work out. There it is, magma. I was looking for the wrong thing. Take this, morbs. Burn, suckers! Yeah! Listen to him sizzle. The burn! See, that's how you take care of it. See, look at how many more frames I'm getting now. It's freed up everything. Lava fixes everything. All right, good deal. Look at this thing. Boom! You could almost feel that thing paste. My computer took a couple of seconds just to think about it. All right, we're gonna have to fire up all of the coal generators to get this one running. Man, this system's so huge, it uses 2 liquid pumps just to cool down all of the shower coolers. Alright, you know it's serious when you're using 16 shower coolers. 16! And a couple extra up here, just for good measure. Oh, come on, Voltron. Snap out of it. Do some work. That'll warm you up. See? Look, he's happier already. At least while he's doing work. No, wait, there's more. There's more Wheezeworts over here. You got more work to do. Alright, so if you're in the need for a humongous amount of polluted oxygen to be purified, this looks like the system for you. Look at it. Obviously we have the gas system over here. Reusing Wheezeworts is a little bit of a pre-cooler system. Nothing wrong with that. Free energy. Always good. We are using the little gas bridge here to combine things. Not sure that it's even needed, but it is working that way. I think the one problem with this system is there's probably just not enough pumps to pump in enough polluted oxygen for it. This thermal regulator, sorry, the aqua tuner up here, what is it made of? Wolframite. And it is actually maintaining a nice cool temperature. Mainly because it's surrounded by a ton of Wheezeworts. And hydrogen, which is always good. And water, which is next to shower coolers. A very effective method for keeping that aqua tuner cool. Well, look at how much it takes. Holy moly. I wonder if you could take a liquid oxygen shower. I doubt it. I know you probably can't in the game. But think about that. Like, well, what would that be like in real life? I bet you it'd really take your breath away. Which would really be kind of ironic when you stop to think about it. Alright, so how much liquid oxygen are we getting out of this thing? Power consumption results in cycles 1.4 megajoules. I could believe that. Others were a mere 100 kilojoules. So who knows how much power this thing is actually using. But it gives you 1 kilogram of oxygen per second. So as fast as you can pump it in. Which again is exactly as fast as you can actually pump oxygen. So that makes sense. Yeah, okay, so this thing is just blowing through the power. Look at it go. So I bet if we let this system run for long enough, we'd actually be able to get some nice stable numbers of just how much power it is using. However, this system here has so much as far as its thermal mass is concerned, it's probably going to take a lot of cycles for it to even out that way. And oh man, things are getting too cold. I must have left something off. Uh-oh. But there you have it. The Chaotix 14. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Have I broken the game? I tried to destroy the entire thing all at once. Oh, it survived. However, now I got all... Oh my gosh, look at all of these. Die! Okay. This is... I don't even know what to think about this anymore. Burn. Okay. No, there's still a lot of them. I can't get rid of all of these. There's morbs everywhere. Stop it. Go away. All of this magma, and the base is still cold. That's how much liquid oxygen we've moved around thus far. Alright, so in case the last system was not big enough for you, look at Olenius' system. Look at it. Look at this. Alright, here we go. Boom! That ought to do it. Okay, I'm not sure what this thermal switch is for. What is it for? Oh man, there's a lot. Oh, what's going on here? Liquid chlorine has found its way into the system. Uh-oh. Where'd that come from? That's probably not supposed to be there. Mop it up. Okay, so you can see how this system works here, right? We've got liquid, oxygen, and then that just goes up through a little bit of an aqua tuner. And this aqua tuner is somehow not overheating because it's made of steel. That's its trick. It's made of steel. And then it is simply surrounded by a humongous amount of oxygen in this case. And there's a liquid vent down here. That should fill this... Where does that liquid vent come from? It just comes from nowhere. Okay, so that's really not anywhere. So this system is actually quite simple as far as what it involves. It's just one loop, and then the gas passively moves through it. Okay. So as far as the power consumption is concerned, it's somewhere between 600 and 800 kilojoules per day. So that's kind of on par with most of these, except for some of the gas systems are a little bit lower. But the production is 1,100 kilograms of liquid oxygen per day, which is quite a bit higher. So that's the first system here that, you know, as far as people are reporting, is actually less energy, you know, as far as kilogram to kilogram of power versus oxygen, which is impressive. He also took this to another level of ridiculous by adding lots and lots of wheeze-worts here. Look at this, just massive amounts of them. In case you had a lot of wheeze-worts in previous maps, I was able to harvest, I think, 60 wheeze-worts from one map. So potentially you could do something to this scale if you really wanted to. However, I'm not sure it's the most practical thing to do, but, you know, look at it. That would absolutely do it. And you can see here it's also increased the amount of thermal mass that he has going on there, so a lot more wolframite. So thank you, Linnaeus, for your design right here. All right, so for our last design, it comes from TK009, and that is all the way, whoops, at the top of the page here. So here we go, here we go. All right, so taking a look at TK's image here, you can see it's actually a small and simple little system here with two gas pumps over here, obviously pulling from wherever that polluted oxygen is, and then using a very simple system here and some showers to then transfer that heat energy between the two. So I'm curious to see how well this works, and also to see if this aqua tuner here will actually stay cool or if it will overheat. Right now it's surrounded by hydrogen, so maybe this hydrogen is connected to something somewhere else, or maybe you can place this wherever you really want. But this little setup right here is something that's small enough to where we could actually potentially build it inside of a base within a reasonable amount of space. So that's why I'm curious about this system. There we go. Boom, just like so. Looks like this is real easy to plug in, just like that. And everything's up and running. Okay. As far as the gas is concerned, it looks like there is a little bit of a gas bridge right there. It's just pumping right into a couple of vents as fast as possible. As far as the temperature is concerned, well, we have some showers up here, so that works out pretty good. So the aqua tuner over here is made of wolframite. All right. And right now I've got way too much gas around this thing, so let me go ahead and just kind of bring this down to a more reasonable level, and we'll see at what point does this thing start to like cook itself. Although I can't I can't block it off. All right, here we go. Okay, so I'm guessing that you could do something like this. All right, so right now I have a vacuum here. However, you can kind of deconstruct some of this block and some of this block to try to keep this aqua tuner cool, right? Or maybe that could be placed down here. Right now it's overheating. But I could do one of these. Bam, there's another shower for you. And why is it so cold? Now come on now. More showers. More showers make everything better. Ugh. Paint in a little bit of oxygen. How about that? There we go. Okay, so now this is working. And what's the temperature of the aqua tuner now? Okay, so now it's actually maintaining a decent temperature because it's surrounded by all this cold oxygen that's actually being pumped into that area. So it's no longer overheating. Okay, cool. And he didn't measure the watts yet. Okay. So you can see this system here is much smaller and it's much more condensed, but it has a lot of those, I don't know, characteristics from my eye that says, you know, this is much more practical as far as something that you can build. And I really like this arrangement here as far as just using the shower coolers as a thermal medium to kind of, you know, use this run of liquid oxygen here to kind of cool that stuff down and then run it back through. I think that's a pretty unique little setup there. And it's simple, you know, and using a little bit of an overflow here to just drip this down into some sort of pre-cooling system, or you could pump it, I guess, at this point. It's just kind of a neat little way to set that up. I quite like it. So, at the end of this cycle, let me go ahead and just mop this up and we'll see what we get for one for one cycle here, just how much power this is using and how much we're getting out of it. You can see that number, it is flying up. These liquid coolers, they can really move fast. Obviously, with 2 pumps here, and then half the time these vents are being blocked, we're not going to be able to get over 1 kilogram a second. It'll be limited by just how much polluted oxygen we can actually get into this space. But it looks like it's going to be close to 600 kilograms in a day. Alright, so 1 day result, 492 kilograms of liquid oxygen at about 1 megajoule worth of power right there. So a 2-to-1 ratio, so just like what we saw with that gas systems being right around that 2-to-1 ratio, that's the same sort of setup that we have right here. So 2 kilojoules worth of power for 1 kilogram worth of oxygen. But you can see 500 kilograms, that's quite a bit. So I could see a little system like this being fed by a system, something like this, right? You know, maybe a smaller version of this, you know, and potentially maybe even a smaller version of this, and then try to combine the pre-cooling and all that stuff to make sure that the equipment stays, you know, tamed and everything like that. So liquid oxygen flows down here, then populates this guy, and then gets this up and running. So that way you can get that production increase and potentially reuse that liquid oxygen several times, right? Before it actually makes it out of the system. So I could definitely see a hybrid system where we combine these two kind of thermoregulators and then also the thermal aqua tuners together to really get the one fully optimized system. But thank you guys for all of your different designs here. So there you have it, guys. Those were all the different systems that were recommended to me from this last challenge. And I think we definitely came away with a lot of different things that we have learned and different ideas that can then be refined and put into other systems that, you know, you could use in your own base. Obviously, not everything needs to look like this or that, but there's a lot of little things that people have done here and there, different arrangements that, you know, make some systems more efficient than the others and make some systems more practical than the others. And I think there's a lot of stuff that I've learned and that I can make use of here in the future. So thank you guys for all of your recommendations and all of your different designs that you guys have come up with. I really look forward to seeing where we can go from here. So thank you guys for all of that. Have a great day. You guys, let me know down there in the comment section below how you guys liked this episode. A good amount of effort and also a great amount of kind of community, you know, collaboration has come together to make this episode possible. So, you know, there you have it. This episode was awesome. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. If I've earned your subscription, then thank you so much for that. Stay awesome, guys. Peace. Brothgar out.